Welcome to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best, and that includes information to keep you healthy and informed. Right now in our city, a movement to make sure all citizens across the state have the same protections that they have here in Rochester has been renewed. GENDA stands for the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act. The act would outlaw discrimination based on gender identity and gender expression throughout the state. And joining us today is City Councilmember Haag. He's leading a charge to pass this important law along with Mayor Lovely Warren. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
So I mentioned in the intro that it's a renewed effort. How long has this effort been going on?
Yeah, this has been an effort across New York State and across the country for quite a number of years now. In fact, in Rochester, we passed a GENDA-like bill over a decade ago. In New York State, the Assembly has passed, assuming they pass it again this year, this will be the 7th or 8th time the New York State Assembly has passed GENDA. Where it's gotten hung up each and every time is in the state Senate.
Right. And why is this work so important to you? Why have you been...
You know, as somebody who is a part of the LGBT community, it's very important that as part of my work as a city council member to represent all the interests of the community. But I do pay particular interest and attention to those in the LGBT community, as I am the only citywide elected official who is a member of that community. So I think it's particularly important. But in addition to that, any issue that involves fairness and equality is an important issue for me, whether that's by race, gender, or gender expression. It's an issue that I care about.
Now, Rochester was asked specifically to be a leader, champion this cause. Why Rochester?
I think probably for a number of reasons. I think we have a long history that we're rightfully very proud of, dating back to Susan B. Anthony and Frederick Douglass, in terms of their advocacy for civil rights and women's rights. But I also think it's because of our longtime leadership on LGBT issues. Always ahead of what's happened across New York State. Elected the first openly gay person to public office here in Rochester, head of New York City. I think also because of the strong support, 3 separate mayors, including Mayor Warren, have provided for the LGBT community, and I think it's our advocacy. We have a strong city council who has been supportive of this. And so I think they see at all levels of government here in the city of Rochester that we are very diverse, but we are very united when it comes to issues of fairness and equality.
Right. Now, how exactly is the city getting behind this effort?
I think in a number of ways. First, we want to bring attention to it. Our conversation today is part of that effort, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. We're going to hold a press conference and publicize information about this. We are putting up a website where it can educate and inform people about GENDA. And I think equally of importance is we're going to talk about how a GENDA-like situation, a GENDA-like bill, has worked here in Rochester for over a decade without any issues, without any problems, without any challenges. If it can work in Rochester, it can work all across the state.
And across the state, is this effort happening in other places too?
It is. It is. And, you know, in New York City, in Tompkins County, in Albany, all across the state, places that have supported GENDA either through local law or local legislation, also testifying to the positive impacts that it's had on their community, as well as the complete lack of negative impacts.
What is the situation throughout the rest of the state that a municipality that doesn't have these sort of GENDA-like protections?
Do you know, it opens people up to being ejected from their homes if they're renting and a landlord decides that he doesn't want to rent to somebody who expresses their gender differently from perhaps how they were born to how they are as a person. They could be evicted from their home. They could be fired from their job. They could be denied credit simply by how they express their gender. No different than how many years ago people were evicted from that based on their ethnicity or their race or their religion.
Now, just last year, we received a score of 100 on the Municipal Equality Index, and with the City of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, like you said. But do you think we've arrived at the point that we need to be in terms of fairness, equality?
You know, I think we are a better city because of these things, and I think the Human Rights Campaign that recognized us with a score of 100 in the Municipal Equality Index recognized that we are doing many, many things to ensure that all of our citizens are, have all the opportunities that the law can afford them, all the protections that the law can afford them. But I'm not sure our work is ever done on issues of fairness and equality. As society changes, as our views of people and fairness change, I think we always have to look at ways that we can do better. I think just last year, members of the trans community brought to our attention that our language in our law from 10 years ago, while progressive then, didn't seem to be as progressive now, that it wasn't as explicit, it wasn't as reflective as changes that have happened within the transgender community. And so we sat down and talked with them and changed our laws, updated our laws. I'm very proud that Mayor Warren and I were able to announce last year in July that we would update these laws to better reflect the work of in partnership with the community to better protect all of our citizens.
Who are some of those community partners that you work with to make these changes, make updates to laws and so forth?
Yeah, two of our greatest partners as organizations are, one, the Empire State Pride Agenda, a statewide LGBT civil rights organization. They've been on the ground here in Rochester for many years, working to advocate for and with members of the community to get New York State level protections. Locally, we've had the pleasure of, for many years, of working with the Gay Alliance of the Genesee Valley, often referred to as the GAGV. They have been great advocates for the community, including advocating for the trans community. There are increasingly a number of trans advocacy groups, sometimes under the umbrella of the GAGV, and they have just been terrific community partners. And again, not all great ideas reside in City Hall, but so it's great when people come inside City Hall from out and share with us what we can do better. And it's even better when you have receptive officials to listen to that and work toward it. And that's what we've done.
Right. So the language of GENDA itself, over the course of 7 years, has that seen changes?
I would not want to say specifically about the New York State law, because I'm not sure what, I'm sure there has been changes to it, but in essence it continues to be that we look to protect New Yorkers in all forms of housing, job discrimination, financial discrimination, so that they can simply not be fired, evicted, or denied the services that you or I would expect from our state.
Sure. And now you've lived in other places across the nation, Baltimore, places in Pennsylvania, where you're from. How does Rochester compare to those other places that you've been?
Well, we're certainly a leader. We are certainly far ahead and far earlier than many of the places that I've lived. I think Baltimore's catching up. I think Baltimore is doing it, but we're way ahead of them on so many things. And in terms of Pennsylvania, and I'll be happy to be corrected on this, but the last I looked, the state of Pennsylvania still had not a single statewide law that protected any LGBT citizen in their state. It relies on cities like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Harrisburg to do so, but it leaves out millions of citizens and their family members without statewide protections. It's a real I think it's a real deficit in that. I think one of the reasons that Rochester is an attractive place to live is not only all that we have to offer that we all know, but that it's an open, accepting, and welcoming community for people and their family members. I think it makes us and puts us at a competitive advantage to other communities.
What have you heard from constituents who you've come across who they don't know about GENDA or the updates to the laws that have been passed in Rochester? What do they say to you? What's their reaction?
Do you know, I actually, sometimes it makes me happy when people say, you know, I didn't know you could discriminate on that, because I think it says, you know, something that in people's heart they would never even think about doing that. That the idea that it would have to be a law not to prevent discrimination against people in any form, I think shocks people. And then they're surprised that it does happen and that we need these laws. I think a lot of people think we don't need these laws, that we don't need these protections, that everybody is as fair-minded as they are. But we know that's not the case. We know that's not the case on a whole host of racial, gender, ethnicity, religious basis. We know that it exists. And so we need laws to ensure that people have an ability to remedy those situations and to bring it to their attention.
Right. So you've kind of answered this in so many ways already, but what keeps you motivated to keep working towards these changes? Yeah,
you know, I think what motivates me is our constituents, our citizens. I mean, I see in those who are passionate about issues of fairness and equality, of issues of making our city the most competitive city out there. You know, we come together on issues like this. Those who are here to promote Rochester as a great place to do business and work, those who want it to be a city of fairness and equality. We can find common cause in this because we realize that you need one to be the other. And I get excited about that. I get excited about bringing people together and to work in common cause on these. And you know, frankly, it's why people elect you to public office. It's to make change. It's to make sometimes slow, incremental, steady change. But it's always moving in the right direction. And that's why I get up in the morning excited to do what I do.
What's been the most challenging aspects of working in City Council?
You know, sometimes it really is just the amount of time you have in the day to get things done. There are so many issues that we're working on as a city government in cooperation with so many other people in the community. And so there's only so many things we can do in a day. There's only so many things we get done. And I think that can be frustrating at times. You know, frankly, one of the things that it has amazed me since my time on council, and maybe it shouldn't have, but you know, people often decry government and say it doesn't work, and say people in government aren't effective. Now, maybe that's directed to those of us who are the politicians. But one thing I have to say is those who work full time every day as government employees, I tell you, they're out there working their hardest, doing their best, and always looking for ways to do it better. And that really, I think, helps me do my job, so that when we want to look at a different way of approaching the issue we're talking about today, or if we're looking to improve a zoning rule, or the way to make a neighborhood better, or to snowplow streets in a better and more efficient way. You know, our city employees are always there and willing and able to help us think those through. And so, you know, it's I enjoy what I do each and every day, even in spite sometimes that there are frustrations. So along with the online petition that people can sign, what else can people in the community do if they want to get behind this? You know, I think some of the most effective things that you can do are to directly call your state senator, your state assembly members. There's ways you can find who represents you online if you don't know it already. I think that is really one of the most effective things you can do. When they're home in their district office, ask to make an appointment with them. Ask to sit down and talk with them. I know it can be tough for people who are trans or their family members to sometimes come forward and tell your story. But you know, telling your story of who you are and you know, who your family is, I think that can be one of the most powerful and effective ways to advocate for change. And I'd strongly encourage people to do that.
And can people come into your office at City Hall? How would they go about contacting you?
Anytime.
Okay.
You know, although I'm out in the community more than I am in City Hall, you can take that third floor elevator in the City Hall building, and when you get off, you're going to be right onto the door of my office. Feel free to stop by anytime. You can call me. My phone number is on the city website. That includes my home phone number. I think my cell phone number is there, my office phone number. I try to be pretty accessible to people, whether either through Facebook or email or Twitter, any of those things. People can reach out, and I'm always happy to talk and listen to what people have to say and how we can work together to make change.
Right. So for the online petition, just to go back to that really quick, what do people need to, what sort of information do they provide if someone maybe doesn't feel comfortable about going online? Is there another way that they can sign it, so to speak?
You know, I think that we will have some postcards available. I'm not sure if some of the other ways. I think you can do it on your own by calling your state senator, by calling your assembly member. I think that's a really important way. If people hit some roadblocks, feel free to give me a call. We'll work through what you're doing. You know, if you don't have a computer at home or access to one at work, our Rochester Public Libraries are a great resource. If you are a city youth, our rec centers oftentimes will have access to computers and people willing to help you.
So you don't have to be 18 to sign. You can be at any age.
You don't. And in fact, you know, some of our best advocates are our youth. And I think their voices are so clear and consistent on this. They don't get why you would discriminate for any reason with anyone. And I think sometimes their voices are the voices that in somewhat in their purity and in their youthful fervor are some of the most passionate and the most effective.
And finally, real quick, what's happening to the petition once it's complete? Yeah,
so that will be in great partnership with the Pride Agenda. They'll collect all that information. They'll collect all of that. They'll make sure your state senator, your assembly member gets that you're advocating for this, that it's important to you, it's important to your community. And you know, the voices of trans allies are so important. Whether you don't have to have a family member who's trans, you don't have to be trans yourself, but you just have to care about issues of fairness and equality and let people know that this is important for all New Yorkers. This isn't about a special interest. This is about all of our interest.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for your hard work. Again, to learn more about GENDA, you can visit cityofrochester.gov/GENDA. You'll find a link to the petition there. You can also call 311 to be connected to Councilmember Haag. Well, a group of historians, writers, and artists have dedicated their time and talents to keeping our city's history alive and passing their knowledge along to future generations. Akwaaba, the Heritage Associates, were recently honored as a pioneer organization in Rochester, and you're about to find out why. Here is their story.
You take the good and you learn even from the bad and go on and try to make a contribution to the community.
There's a need for the history to be preserved in some way, and so we're, in our small way, we're trying to contribute to that effort.
Rochester has a grip on me because of this rich and varied history.
I am Ruth Anderson, Executive Director of Akwaaba, the Heritage Associates.
I'm David Anderson, and I'm the Program Director.
Akwaaba means welcome, and it is taken from the Twi language, which is spoken in West Africa.
Somewhere around 1999-2000, it was clear that two of our older comrades were being misused by tour operators that would come in and have them step on their bus, and they spill all the information that they would have, and they get put off on a corner. Their names were Louis Bracey and Charles Frazier, and by they were gathering all this information, and why not put it to use both to inform the public and to honor them, and that was the impetus for us bringing this organization into being.
We call ourselves the Heritage Associates, and There are approximately 7 of us that are active. The associates are independent contractors, so that when we have a presentation or a tour or a program that they feel that they will fit into, then they work with us on contract. Our main emphasis is to bring to life the Underground Railroad history time period in Rochester. And so that's our main mission, but we concentrate on the Afro-Rochester history, which is often overlooked.
We are listed with the Network to Freedom, which is a National Park Service initiative, now several years old, which highlights those activities, such as one of our Underground Railroad tours, as being especially important for the nation.
Our reenactors are really, they get into the role, they choose the person that they are going to portray. So when they are doing a portrayal, those who are watching really are caught up in their portrayal, and it isn't as if it's just acting. One year early on, we had a group of journalists from West Africa who came. We have family reunion groups, school groups, church conferences, just a variety, and sometimes it's just 1 or 2 people who are interested in the history, and we'll do a tour for them.
We give a tribute to the Civil War soldiers who were known as United States Colored Troops. We take people to the grave sites of the 15 that are in Mount Hope Cemetery, and also one at Riverside, and we try to engage them in what we know about their life prior to enlistment and what they went through in terms of the battles that they're on record as being a part of. We still are involved in trying to make a more perfect union, but we're only going to do that as we understand and appreciate what the various elements, human elements, have been in this journey. Some of the portrayals I happen to have an opportunity to do sometimes is Frederick Douglass, and one of the joyful experiences is collaborating with Barbara Blaisdell, who epitomizes Susan B. Anthony. So Douglass and Anthony get together periodically. What I'm always looking for is questions that allow me to talk about the other family members of with Frederick Douglass, especially his first wife, who would risk her own freedom in order to help set him free.
These events were a long time ago, and we can't imagine being in some of the situations that they were in. So you see someone take on that personality, then it becomes real. It's just silence. They're just mesmerized. They're taken in back in time, so that sometimes the children almost believe that we really are back in time, and it's no longer the 21st century.
Let's keep focus on what can be, because so many of our predecessors have climbed over rough hurdles, but yet kept on making contributions. It's an economic matter, for that matter. The tours we do each year, some of the people stay overnight, and that's a contribution. If we can increase that, we're likely to have Rochester as more of a destination for people who want to know about America. We're here. We're not going anywhere. And a person can only really help, when that person has both feet planted solid. Then you're balanced, and you can help left, right, back, and forth. And this is something we have to make efforts to preserve and perpetuate.
If you'd like more information on Akwaaba, the Heritage Associates, you can visit their website. That's akwabatours.org, or you can call 585-482-5192. Thanks for joining us on this edition of CityWise. I'm Tiana Stevens, and we'll see you next week.